Friday the 13th, how the fall of the Templars gave birth to the greatest superstition in history. On the cold dawn of Friday, October 13th, 1307, a silent scream echoed across France. Templar knights, men who had sworn to defend faith and protect secrets no king dared to know, were torn from their beds and shackled under direct orders from King Philip IV. In one single stroke, the most powerful man in Christendom sought to destroy the order that had become his shadow. What no one knew was that behind that cursed date lay a conspiracy so deep it would echo through centuries, birthing fear, superstition, and mystery that still haunt the world today. They say curses are born from broken vows, and on that Friday the sacred bond between faith and power was shattered. Thousands of Templars were arrested, tortured, and burned alive for a betrayal forged in greed. As flames devoured their bodies, a curse was spoken, one that would outlive kings and empires. The final cry of Jacques de Molay, the last Grand Master of the Templars, thundered through the fire, "Before this year is over, God shall judge the guilty." Weeks later, both the king and the pope were dead. Coincidence or divine retribution? Since that day, Friday the 13th has been branded as a symbol of bad luck, misfortune, and darkness. But few know that its origin has nothing to do with modern superstition. It was born from the ashes of the Templars, from a betrayal that shook heaven and earth. That night marked not only the end of an era, but the beginning of humanity's greatest superstition. Behind the number 13 lies the blood of those who swore to protect a secret that kings feared and popes coveted. Today you'll uncover what truly happened that night, who planned the betrayal, what the Templars were hiding, and why centuries later the world still trembles at their memory. Prepare for a journey through faith, power, and vengeance, because this is not just the story of a fall, and it's the birth of a curse that never died. Few realize that one of the most feared dates in modern culture, Friday the 13th, originates from one of the darkest chapters in human history, the destruction of the Knights Templar. For many, it's just superstition, a day of bad luck surrounded by myths and coincidences. But for those who know the hidden past, that date marks the moment faith was betrayed, power was corrupted, and a curse was born from the ashes of justice. It was on the dawn of October 13th, 1307, that the destiny of the Templar Order was sealed, and with it, a new fear began to haunt mankind. The Knights Templar were once deemed invincible, warrior monks sworn to protect pilgrims and guard the sacred relics of Christendom. For nearly 2 centuries, they were a symbol of strength, discipline, and mystery. Their power came not only from the sword, but from their knowledge. They mastered engineering, economics, and spiritual teachings that even the church feared. And it was that power, subtle yet absolute, that stirred the envy and dread of Europe's thrones. King Philip IV of France, driven by greed and his immense debt to the order, made a decision that would echo through eternity, to annihilate what he could not control. The assault was swift and merciless. In a single night, dozens of Templars were captured, their fortresses seized, their treasures confiscated. What began as a political maneuver became a ritual of extermination. The church, pressured by the crown, turned its face away. The king acted as both judge and executioner. Faith and sword, once united, now turned upon each other. The world watched, horrified, as the defenders of the cross were burned alive. And as the flames rose, so too did a spiritual vengeance, one that time itself could not extinguish. That night, history changed forever. The number 13, once a sacred symbol of balance and transformation, became a sign of chaos and doom. Friday, the day of Christ's crucifixion, became forever tied to betrayal and blood. 2 forces, holy and cursed, collided, giving birth to a myth that would endure for centuries. Every superstition tied to Friday the 13th is, in truth, a distant echo of that night when the Templars were betrayed. Centuries have passed, yet the mystery remains. Where did their manuscripts go? What secrets were so dangerous that kings feared them? And above all, did Jacques de Molay's final curse truly come to pass? Historians explain, skeptics deny, but the connection between the Order's fall and humanity's greatest superstition is undeniable. This is the beginning of a journey through shadows, fire, and faith. A descent into the betrayal that scarred history and redefined fear itself. Because behind Friday the 13th there is no bad luck, only truth. And every legend begins with one. The road to the tragedy of Friday, October 13th, 1307, began years earlier in the silent chambers of power in France. King Philip IV, known as Philip the Fair, was a ruler consumed by obsession, control and wealth. His crown was drowning in debt, and his greatest creditor was none other than the Order of the Knights Templar, a force wealthier and more organized than most kingdoms in Europe. The Order controlled banks, trade routes, and strongholds across the continent. They financed crusades, built cathedrals, and managed papal treasures. To the king, such independence was intolerable. He could not abide a military and spiritual power that did not bow to his throne, and so began the plot to destroy them. In secret, Philip gathered a circle of advisors and jurists to help him weave one of the most devastating conspiracies of the Middle Ages. They knew they could not defeat the Templars by force. The Order was disciplined, feared, and loyal to no crown. So they struck where men are weakest, in faith. Rumors began to spread. Whispers that the Templars worshipped idols, spat upon the cross, and practiced heretical rites in darkness. No evidence existed, but the rumor was enough. Doubt in the mind of a king or a pope can be deadlier than any sword. At the same time, Philip manipulated Pope Clement V, newly seated in Avignon, playing him like a pawn. Clement owed his position to the king and feared losing French support. Under political pressure and divine pretext, the Pope yielded, authorizing an Inquisition into the Order. In the name of faith, but driven by greed, Philip signed the decree that would doom the Templars. The attack would be swift, coordinated, and merciless. No knight was to escape. On the dawn of that Friday the 13th, the bells of Paris rang not for prayer, but for betrayal. Knights were dragged from their beds, temples looted, treasuries emptied, and ancient secrets fell into the wrong hands. Many Templars, believing they fought for God, could not comprehend that they had been betrayed by men who used his name to justify greed. And so that morning, the light of the Temple Order began to fade, replaced by the shadow of deceit that would forever mark the number 13 as cursed. The Templars were arrested throughout France, dragged in chains to the king's dungeons, and subjected to tortures beyond imagination. King Philip IV, desperate to justify his betrayal, ordered the full arsenal of the Inquisition to be unleashed. Men who had faced armies and survived crusades were broken, body and soul, under unspeakable agony. Hands burned, limbs stretched, bones shattered. Every scream became a distorted prayer echoing through the damp stone corridors. The king needed guilt, the pope needed silence. And so, under torture, the Templars began to confess to sins they never committed. Records from that time describe outrageous confessions, the worship of idols shaped like goats, denial of Christ, and satanic rituals. No real evidence was ever found, but for the church and the people, the tortured words of the knights were enough. It was easier to accept lies than face the truth, that even holiness can be corrupted by greed. The trials spread across Europe, and within months the once mighty Order, the very pillar of Christendom, was turned to ashes. Yet as the fires burned, a quiet realization began to stir in the hearts of men that the sacred itself was being betrayed in the name of power. The last Grand Master, Jacques de Molay, endured as long as any man could. He refused to betray his brothers, and even after enduring torture, never revealed the location of the Templar treasure or the sacred secrets he had sworn to protect. When he saw that both church and crown had conspired to destroy truth itself, de Molay understood that his death would be his deliverance. On March 18, 1314, the Grand Master was brought before Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. Before the crowd and the fire that awaited him, he lifted his voice and uttered words that would echo through eternity. God knows who is wrong and who has sinned. Before the year is out, I summon you, King Philip and Pope Clement, to appear before the throne of the Almighty. The flames rose, consuming his body, but not his curse. Before the year ended, Pope Clement died under mysterious circumstances, and King Philip collapsed suddenly, leaving behind a throne and a lineage cursed by guilt. The prophecy was fulfilled. From that moment on, fear spread. Friday the 13th would forever symbolize the fall of the righteous, the punishment of the corrupt, and the warning that there are forces man should never defy. The blood of the Templars had sealed not only a tragedy, but an eternal curse. After the execution of Jacques de Molay, the Christian world sank into a dark silence. The fire that consumed the last Grand Master of the Templars did not simply end an era, it cast a shadow across all of Europe. The people, terrified by the fate of the Holy Knights, began to whisper that the King and the Pope had awakened something that should never have been disturbed. Tales of omens, apparitions, and disasters spread like wildfire. Crops failed, storms ravaged entire cities, and many claimed it was the echo of the Templar curse. Fear spread faster than any army, and in every marketplace people warned, those who break sacred vows would suffer the same fate as the Knights of the Temple. As the years passed, the day of betrayal, Friday the 13th, became a symbol of misfortune. People began to avoid weddings, travels, and business dealings on that day, believing that anything begun on a Friday the 13th was doomed to fail. The number 13, once a symbol of divine completeness, was reinterpreted as a mark of imbalance and tragedy. 12 apostles and 1 traitor. 12 months and a 13th that disrupts the order. What had once represented the sacred now stood for misfortune, and the reason was written in the blood of the Templars. Yet something deeper stirred beneath the superstition. The Templars had been victims of a system that twisted faith into a tool of power, and their destruction became an invisible warning. With every passing Friday the 13th, the collective unconscious seemed to remember, even without knowing, the day truth itself was burned at the stake. The centuries that followed kept that memory alive. Though the Templars no longer existed officially, their relics, their legends, and their vows survived in secret brotherhoods, claiming to protect their legacy. The superstition crossed borders, embedding itself in cultures and religions alike. In Scotland and Portugal, people believed Jacques de Molay's spirit wandered the earth, judging unjust kings and corrupt priests. In Italy, merchants refused to strike bargains on Fridays, and in France, noble families avoided speaking the Templars' name aloud. Over time, fear became tradition, and tradition turned into belief. The day and the number fused into an eternal emblem of misfortune. What few realize is that behind every superstition lies a truth, and this one was born from fire, betrayal, and the final cry of a knight burned alive before a corrupt king. As centuries passed, the echo of the Templar curse did not fade, it merely changed form. As the Middle Ages gave way to the Renaissance and knowledge began to bloom again, the fear of Friday the 13th transformed into a cultural shadow filled with meaning. Each generation reinterpreted the superstition, adapting it to its own fears. Sailors refused to set sail on that day, believing the sea would turn against them. Builders avoided beginning new projects, convinced failure awaited. Even scholars and artists at the height of rational thought preferred not to tempt fate. What had begun as a curse upon a king and a pope had become a silent code of reverence for the unseen, a reminder that there are forces man was never meant to betray. As the Church's influence grew and European expansion reached across the seas, the superstition traveled with it, finding new forms in new lands. In America, settlers inherited the fear of Friday the 13th as a cultural relic. By the 19th century, writers and philosophers began describing the number 13 as a symbol of cosmic imbalance. Tales emerged of ships sinking after departing on that day, merchants ruined and marriages doomed. Thus the Templar curse became woven into the fabric of human consciousness. It was as though the spirit of Jacques de Molay still watched, reminding the world of the price of betrayal and greed. By the 20th century, with the rise of mass culture, the myth reached its peak. Cinema and literature transformed Friday the 13th into a universal symbol of fear. Horror films, Gothic novels, and television shows immortalized it as a date of terror. The number 13 vanished from buildings, elevators, and airplane rows. The day that once recalled the fire and faith of the Templars now stood for fatality itself. Yet few ever ask, why does this date still inspire unease in a modern world ruled by science and reason? The answer lies in what the Templars represented and in what their destruction symbolizes. Friday the 13th is not just superstition, it is memory. It is the echo of an injustice time refused to erase. It is the reminder that when truth is betrayed, history itself seeks retribution. The fear we feel is not irrational, it is ancient. It is the fear of corrupted power, of faith turned into a weapon, and of destiny catching up with those who defy the sacred. And until the world remembers what truly happened that night in 1307, the number 13 will continue to carry the weight of a curse that was never broken. Development. Topic 5. Ian. Even centuries after their downfall, the echoes of the Knights Templar continued to shape modern culture, spirituality, and even politics. The fear and fascination surrounding the order never vanished. They simply evolved into symbols, secrets, and societies that inherited fragments of their legacy. In Masonic temples, ancient cathedrals, and forgotten monuments, the red cross of the Templars still appears quietly, a silent reminder that the vow made beneath Solomon's temple was never truly broken. Friday the 13th became more than a day of misfortune. It became a symbol of delayed divine justice, a date that recalls the moment when truth was silenced and earthly power defied heaven. During the Renaissance and the Age of Enlightenment, philosophers and artists began to reclaim the name of the Templars as defenders of forbidden knowledge. Their ideals of balance between faith and reason inspired secret movements seeking to reconnect humanity to ancient wisdom. Many scholars believe that Freemasonry inherited portions of Templar rituals and codes, adapting them for a new age. The use of the compass, the square, and sacred geometry in architecture reflects the monk warrior's lessons about universal harmony. The number 13, once feared, was reinterpreted by some as the number of rebirth, the price paid for light emerging from destruction. But the Templar myth also infiltrated popular culture. Books, films, and conspiracy theories continue to explore the idea that the Order survived in the shadows, safeguarding secrets that could alter human history. Some claim that descendants of the Templars still operate in silence, influencing global politics and finance. Others argue that the true Templar treasure was never gold or relics, but knowledge, a wisdom so dangerous it could free mankind from manipulation and reveal the true nature of the divine. This myth, fueled by centuries of silence, became the fire that still burns in humanity's collective imagination. Curiously, even in our digital age, the fear of Friday the 13th endures. Hotels still skip room 13, skyscrapers omit the 13th floor, and travelers hesitate to embark on journeys that day. It's as if humanity, deep down, still senses something sacred about the date, an energy that demands reverence. The superstition survives because its origin was real, the destruction of innocent men betrayed by those meant to protect faith. Friday the 13th is not a warning of bad luck. It's a reminder that lies born from power always demand a price. And in a way, the world still pays for that crime committed in 1307. The legacy of the Templars did not end in the flames of Paris, nor with Jacques de Molay's final curse. It transcended centuries, hidden within the structures of power, embedded in secret symbols, and preserved in humanity's collective memory. Today, the echoes of the Order can still be felt, in discrete societies, in ancient monuments, and even in the superstitions that shape our subconscious. Friday the 13th, once a date of blood and betrayal, has become a universal reminder that some truths can never be buried. Every whisper of fear, every superstition, is the subconscious memory of a sacred covenant broken by human hands. Many scholars believe the true legacy of the Templars lies in their fusion of the spiritual and the rational, a worldview in which faith does not oppose knowledge but completes it. That vision, radical for its time, was condemned because it threatened the Church's monopoly on truth. Yet it survived. Today it re-emerges in modern philosophies, in humanity's spiritual search for balance, and even in the scientific pursuit of harmony between mystery and reason. The curse associated with Friday the 13th may not be a punishment at all, but a reminder that humankind must still learn to reconcile power with wisdom and faith with justice. In art and culture, the Templar symbol remains immortal. Films, novels, and documentaries portray the Knight in White, bearing the Red Cross, as a guardian of hidden truth, a tragic hero wielding both sword and secret. The legends of the Holy Grail, the lost treasure, and coded cathedrals are echoes of something deeper. The Templars represent the eternal struggle between purity and corruption, between the divine ideal and the ambitions of man. But there is something even more subtle, an invisible legacy. It lives in every soul that stands against injustice, that refuses to kneel before deceit, that seeks truth even when the world prefers silence. Friday the 13th should not be feared. It should be understood. It marks not misfortune, but awakening. It is the day humanity is invited to remember that the betrayal of truth always demands a price. And as long as the name of the Templars is whispered in secrecy or spoken in reverence, their pact endures, not as a curse, but as an eternal warning.